Welcome to the Exec Exchange, 15-minute podcast in which a leader from the water sector shares a story to inspire, inform, and educate other water sector leaders across the globe. My name is Piers Clark, and my guest today is Ringo, the Director of Drainage Services at Hong Kong SAR. And what we're going to talk about today is how Hong Kong, a coastal city, shapes itself to be a flood-resilient city. Ringo, it is wonderful to have you with us here today.
Happy to be here.
Well, we always start with a little bit of background on our podcaster. So can you give me the potted history of how you got into the current role? What was your journey through HKSAR?
I'm a civil and structural engineer by training. After graduation from the University of Hong Kong in 1990, I began my career in the private sector with a global consulting firm before moving on to the Mass Transit Railway Corporation. In 1997, I transitioned into public service and joined the Hong Kong government. I took up the post for engineer in the Drainage Services Department for about 12 years. I was then posted to the Development Bureau and the Civil Engineering and Development Department. In 2023, I was appointed as the Director of the Drainage Services Department, being the head of the government department to deliver our drainage services to the people and community of Hong Kong.
Brilliant. Now, for those who may not be familiar with what the Drainage Services Department does, can you tell me a bit more about it?
The Drainage Services Department was established in 1989. Our vision is to enable a future-ready, climate-resilient Hong Kong with our world-class wastewater and stormwater drainage services. We also have 5 missions, including embracing innovation and technology, supporting Hong Kong's sustainability goal, powering excellence through partnership, forging a high-caliber team, and making every resources count.
I love that number one there was embracing innovation and technology. Now, can you give me a sense of the scale? How big is the organization?
We have about 2,000 civil servant staffs, managing over 370 drainage facilities. And our pipeline network gets near 5,000 kilometers. On the flood prevention side, we manage and operate drainage tunnels and channels, underground stormwater drains with a total length of about 2,800 kilometers. Other flood prevention facilities include 5 underground stormwater storage tanks and 36 pumping stations, which are fully operational to reduce flood risk in the urban areas. On the sewage treatment side, we manage and operate about 70 sewage treatment plants and 270 sewage pumping stations, as well as an extensive sewerage network with a total length of about 2,000 kilometers long, gravity sewers and pumping mains. Every day, we treat about 2.8 million cubic meters of sewerage. Currently, our sewerage system is serving about 94% of Hong Kong's total population.
That's some incredible stats that you've just shared there. Can you talk me through some of the signature projects that you've done?
Actually, I'm proud of what our department has achieved. Up to now, the Harbour Area Treatment Scheme project is without doubt in the history of Hong Kong, the most impactful and far-reaching sewage project, which has significantly improved the water quality of our Victoria Harbour. Another flagship project is the regulation of Shenzhen River project. Shenzhen River is the natural border between Hong Kong and Chinese mainland. The project has greatly reduced the flood risk of Hong Kong and Shenzhen. Both cities are core economic and financial hubs of the Greater Bay Area.
Brilliant. Now, from your point as director of the DSD, how has flood management landscape evolved?
When we talk about extreme weather today, we are talking about more intense storms and record-breaking rainfall. Hong Kong is compact, coastal, and hilly. Most of our developed areas are along low-lying shorelines, facing both flash floods and coastal flood risk. Last year, we have got about 2,550 millimeter annual total rainfall, which is about 5% higher than normal. Over the decades, our government has invested heavily in drainage tunnels, underground storage tanks, and river training works. These have greatly reduced historical flooding in the past. However, our experience shows that Flooding is not only a matter of overall drainage capacity. That means we cannot rely solely on infrastructure expansion to eliminate flood risk in a dense and evolving city like Hong Kong. There is a clear need for a holistic integrated flood management strategy to link up engineering works, operational measures, and stakeholders to strengthen Hong Kong's flood resilience against the backdrop of climate change. True resilience is a partnership which the communities share awareness, acknowledgement, and action.
You are absolutely right, Ringo. I used to be the asset director of Thames Water and we had similar problems in London. You've got to work in partnership with your communities. In many cases, flooding, of course, is aggravated by local blockages caused by leaves or silt or refuse washing down the drain. And the relevant parties have got to share the responsibility for maintaining the drains.
Indeed, inspired by Elinor Ostrom, the 2009 Nobel laureate in economic science, common pooled resources are best governed polycentrically with many centers of decision-making at multiple levels. Share vessels, share information, and share routines in the last mile, which together determine how quickly community resume to normal after torrential rain. We call this resilient commons.
Wonderful. Now, I understand that the DSD has developed a framework to put this polycentric thinking into place. Tell us a bit more about that.
We organize this partnership through 3 pillars: adaptation, resilience, and management. The framework of our integrated flood management strategy. Each pillar pairs a community contribution. Adaptation pair with awareness. At the first level, the government realize flood risk and build the infrastructure to reduce the risk. But awareness cannot stop at government level. It must extend to the second level, which is the public. We must educate our people that even the best system has limits. Instead of promising zero flooding, we explained realistic levels of protection, publish flood-prone areas, and shift the mindset from expecting absolute protection to understanding shared responsibility. Resilience, the second pillar, pair with acknowledgement. Many flooding cases stem from blockage of inlets and gullies by tree leaves and debris, instead of capacity shortfall of the drainage system. Resilience therefore cannot rest with the government alone. The community, business, and property manager must also act. We accept that extreme weather events will exceed design standards, so we shape the city to bend rather than break. In new development areas, portable parks perform double duties: leisure in fair weather, retention in storms. In fully developed districts, demountable barrier and inflatable dam work effectively when people actively participate. We aim to build a culture where people acknowledge their own risk exposure and role in mitigation, rather than treating flood as solely the government's responsibility.
Incredible. Well, let's talk about that third management pillar and how does that work when you can see the storm coming? What is management doing?
Management pair with action. We have weather and flood monitoring system that give us real-time information. We have developed action plans specifying when, where, and what measures are to be deployed. We carry out drills before each typhoon season, so our emergency response teams and local stakeholders know their roles and actions when flood warnings are issued. The public-facing tools, such as waiting line markings on low-lying roads, river water level warning system, and a 24 hours hotline for reporting flooding spots, enabling people to act alongside the government. That is the resilience commons in motion.
This ARM strategy is so compelling. I'm sure there have been some successful case studies. Can you give me an example of a real life story, a flood that happened and what you did?
Super Typhoon Ragasa in 2025 was a real test on Hong Kong's flood resilience. A week before the storm arrived, we already knew that Hong Kong would be hit by heavy rain and extreme high tide at the same time. A day before arrival of the Ragasa, relevant government departments, including our department, jointly held a press conference to the public, put out our latest flood risk assessment, told the public on response measures. By using our flood risk prediction model, we pinpointed 11 high-risk areas, and then we arranged our contractors to distribute sandbags, set up demountable and inflatable barriers, install temporary walkways to ensure villagers in low-lying spots could commute safely. Also, we positioned 14 pumping robots at vulnerable locations, activated our emergency control center ahead, and deployed over 200 emergency response teams across the territory in standby mode before the arrival of the storm. Ragasa escalated fast after midnight on the day of landfall, creating severe storm surge and overtopping wave. As soon as the condition eased a bit, the pumping robot and the emergency response team were dispatched to the reported location of flooding against the clock. We received over 500 service calls, and 24 flooding cases were confirmed as a result. We post updated flood information on our social media channel every 1 to 2 hours, reminding the public to stay safe and also reporting progress of our flood relief and recovery actions. We clear up most flooding cases within 1 to 2 hours. Hong Kong managed to resume its vibrant life on the next day.
And that's the most amazing thing in that story, is obviously you can see the storm coming and you can prep for it, but mobilizing the team and the measure of success is how quickly you get things back up and running again. And to be able to get a global city like Hong Kong back up and running within just a couple of hours is absolutely amazing. What lessons did you take from that? How is that experience shaping DSD's approach going forward?
The lesson taken is resilience is not only about avoiding floods, but also about preparing, responding, and recovering. And that only happens when the government and the public are taking up their shared responsibility in the last mile.
Ringo, it is wonderful talking to you. We are unfortunately running out of time, and I always like to finish by asking the question, if you could go back 30, 40 years and talk to your younger self, what advice would you give a young Ringo Mock?
If I could go back 30 or 40 years and speak to my younger self, here is what I would say, not as a director, but as someone who has seen the weather rewrite the rules. First, accept this hard truth. We cannot eliminate the flood fully. Extreme weather events will come faster and fiercer than any model predicted. Bigger drinks, higher walls. They will never be enough. So, stop promising zero flooding. That is a promise we cannot keep. Instead, be honest. Publish flood point areas. Explain our realistic level of protection. Trust the public with the truth. Second, do not rely solely on adaptation. Infrastructure is essential, but it is not the whole answer. The government cannot simply build our way out of every windstorm. So, my strongest advice is this. Start the public conversation now. Educate, engage, and shift the mindset from the government must fix this to we all have a role. Because flooding cannot be coped with by the act of the government alone. It never could. If we had begun building the culture of shared responsibility 30 years ago, where every resident understands their risk exposure, their role in preparedness, and their part in resilience, our city would have been far more ready for climate challenges by now. So, to my younger self, start building understanding, because a resilient Hong Kong is not built by drinks. It is built by all of us together.
You have been listening to the Exec Exchange with me, Piers Clark, and my guest today has been Mr. Ringo Mock, the Director of Drainage Services for HK SAR. Thank you to our sponsors, and until next time, keep asking questions, keep sharing, and keep safe.